A very good morning to you and welcome to the 13th, yes, 13th episode, lucky number 13 of The Biz Live. My name is Jamie Breeze. I'm the host and co-producer of the show. We have a very special guest speaker for our 13th episode today, which is sponsored by Weston College, but we'll tell you more about that in a few moments' time. Okay, so The Biz Live is part of the Evo business networking community. We've been going for 5 years and we have our 5th birthday of the first group called Genesis, appropriately titled on the 6th of April. And we're very much looking forward to celebrating. The Biz Live started in September last year when we were accredited by LinkedIn to stream live. It's very exciting for us all. And we're looking forward to welcoming many new guest speakers and guests onto the show as we move forward into the year. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my co-host and also very good friend and colleague at Evo Networking, Sarah Brooks, and she's going to tell you a bit about what's coming up today. Hello, Sarah Brooks.
Good morning, Jamie. Yeah, it's very exciting today to delve into the world of education. We like to do that on the Biz Live, don't we? We like to unpack what's going on in a subject area, but also the person themselves. And obviously, Dr. Paul has got so much to offer. He's achieved a lot. So looking forward to finding out more about that. And I think we can all agree that the aim of our education system is to deliver a sound general education and develop skills and training, which then leads to a job and fulfilling employers' needs. That's broadly how society runs. So our theme today is, what is the relationship between education and business? Is it actually delivering what we need? So that will be very interesting for Dr. Paul to give us his thoughts on that. And our talking point, we want to look at what inspired you to pursue your career, either a current career or maybe something else in your portfolio. I mean, people have multiple careers these days, don't they? They don't perhaps just have one. So what is it that inspired you to follow that path? And it might be a who or what encouraged, inspired, prompted, motivated you to follow that particular career.
Great, good stuff. Well, it's we're very lucky, I should say, to have a new sponsor. This is season number 4, and there are 4 episodes per season. So it would be remiss if I didn't mention a big thank you for Dave Crew, Josh et al. At the aforementioned Weston College. So thank you very much indeed for making this series and indeed season, if you're watching from elsewhere, possible. We're very grateful to our sponsor. We'll be telling you a little bit more about them later on, but without further ado, we encourage you all, as it is a networking show. That's the genesis of our creation at the Biz Live. We invite you to connect with each other. So please do introduce yourself into the chat. Sarah is going to be moderating today's episode, so she'll be busy in the background, coming in from time to time. And then also, if you've got any questions for our special guest today, Dr. Paul Phillips CBE, then please do pop them into the chat from now. Also, do remember our talking point, just to sort of précis. We have a theme today, which is the relationship between education and business. Very appropriate. Thank you for that, Sarah. And also, just to remind you, if you're just joining now, you're watching the Biz Live, and our talking point is what has inspired you in the career that you're now in. And obviously we're alluding perhaps to your education, maybe an apprenticeship, maybe a traineeship, or maybe you didn't go to college and university, maybe you took a different route. We'd like to hear about that today. So let's pop those details into the chat. I can see that we already have Ian Porter into the show from the aforementioned Weston College, and Ian has a 100% attendance record. I feel like I'm doing the register now. He has attended every single episode of the Biz Live, and very pleased to see him there. We have Irina there, who is from the University of Bristol. So a very big shout out to all of our fellow friends in education, and my friend there, Irina. Alex Alton is based in Weston-super-Mare. Yep, Good. Well, thank you for that. It sounds like I paid you some money. Well done, Weston College, for the sponsorship. I think we should be the ones who are saying thank you to them. And Sarah, can I just tell you, for the first time in 13 episodes, you've suddenly been cast into darkness. So where we are, which isn't a million miles away from Weston Supermarket, there you are.
I'm just a little bit close to the light.
A big shout out to Joseph Smith there. Many people joining in, and if you are just joining now, please do introduce yourself into the chat. Here is a business owner from Weston Supermare. She set up a shop recently on the high street, Jill Butte. And there's Gilly Montgomery as well, runs a business creating treetops. It's a family business. Anna Coleman there as well. Very nice to meet you, of course, from Weston College as well. I don't think we met before, Anna. So look, continue to introduce yourself into the chat. Remember, the talking point today, we want to be hearing a little bit about the things which have inspired you in your career. So the talking point, one more time, is what has inspired you in the career that you are now in? Let's come on in. Let's have those comments. Sarah will go away and bring up some key questions in a little bit. And also, just remember, it's this show would not have been possible without our sponsor, Weston College. So big shout out today. Okay, Sarah, anything else to add before you disappear off and do some moderating?
No, I mean, obviously we haven't mentioned the C word yet, but that will feature very much, I'm sure, in what Dr. Paul has to say to us. So, you know, I'm sure it's the way he operates as well.
Good stuff. Well, look, thank you very much indeed, Sarah Brooks. Please make yourself busy responding to comments. And again, if you're just tuning in now, you're watching the Biz Live, and our guest today, I'm going to introduce in just a moment's time. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, and a very big welcome to the first time visit to our show, the Biz Live, Dr. Paul Phillips CBE. And if you're watching at home or if you're in the office, please give us a little round of applause. If you look in the LinkedIn live feed chat, you can see a hand with a heart if you're that way inclined. If you've got a thumb, please give it up as well. There's all sorts of different emoticons. Please give a very, very big warm welcome to Dr. Paul Phillips CBE. Now I've pre-qualified myself here. I can call you Paul, is that right?
Absolutely.
A big welcome. How are you today? Enjoying the sunshine there in Winston? Good stuff.
Yes, all good, thank you.
Well, as Sarah said, you know, rather than we're going to talk a bit about your background and how you came to be the principal and the CEO of this enormous and very successful organization, education institution. But I'd like to talk to you again about that C word straight off the bat. I mean, I'd imagine it was a very busy day for you being based in England and running a college yesterday.
I think yesterday we got back to a sense of normality. We've got 30,000 learners at the college and its campuses. So we're on a phased return over this week and next week. But we're most definitely back in the swing of things, and we are really advancing now, learning on a face-to-face basis, which I suppose is the way it should be. I mean, I would say we've continued right through from the moment COVID happened a year ago. We moved to virtual learning, and we have continued to deliver all our courses, work with industry. But there is nothing better than that face-to-face engagement with the learner, with business, with employers. And that's the best bit about this week, I think.
Well, look, as they say, the very best of British luck, and congratulations on managing to keep abreast of things moving forward ever since the first English lockdown. You know, it's an incredible achievement, and I know, as you know, I know some people from Weston College, and I've been kept abreast of what's been going on, and I'd imagine it's been a huge challenge. But I think we'll come to that when we in a few minutes' time, when we talk about the kind of the present, and then we'll look at some of the future plans from Weston as well, because we're all positive here at the Biz Live. But I just wanted to talk a bit. Okay, let me put this a different way. When I came to your annual address, well, it seemed like an age ago, but it was only a year and a bit ago when we could actually meet face to face. And it was a wonderful setting. It was a very sunny day, if I remember, at one of my favorite locations in the world, and that's because I'm a huge fan of The Remains of a Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, and his new book is out just on Monday this week. I should give him a plug for him. Not that he needs it, being a Nobel winner, but it is my favourite story. And I, at any opportunity, and anyone from Weston-super-Mare, I tend to talk about The Remains of a Day, and I hope one day to set up The Remains of a Day with his blessing, if I can reach him through his agent. But that's a story maybe to involve the college with in the future. But of course, the Winter Gardens was the filming location of one of the pivotal scenes at the end in the third act. And it was lovely to be able to come along to your address. And I got this very, very clear impression, and this is a massive compliment, that everyone holds you in very, very high regard in the business community and education. And I know that you sit on various boards and bodies helping guide people. But let's just kind of go back before you joined Weston College Group, as it's now known, North Somerset, that was back in 2001. What was your kind of journey to the place, that point back in, well, nearly 20 years ago, where you took over the college as its principal? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I suppose really when I left school, I was very focused really on getting a job. I hadn't had the greatest of educational experiences. I worked in the hospitality trade. I worked my way up to running a string of hotels. I then left that worked for the Ministry of Defence, and really set a scene, I think, in terms of computer-aided command systems. The nature of that work, I suppose, was very secret, so I was never allowed to see anything through to the end, and I did get a bit disenchanted with it. I used to do 3 months on, 1 month off. I came home on that 1 month, and my mother asked me if I would help out at the local college with a maths class, which I duly did, and I got hooked. I suddenly realized that I could work with people, many of whom hadn't had fair chances in education, and advance them. So I started working in education. I worked in the university sector. I worked in a primary school. I worked in 4 FE colleges, and I suddenly saw a job advertised in Weston-super-Mare it was an £8 million college, and they were looking for a principal and chief executive, and I thought I'd give it a go. And that really is the journey. It's been a varied career, ranging from being expelled in school to going to night school, gaining qualifications, going to university, working through colleges, and becoming a poacher turned gamekeeper, really.
Okay, so we're going to row back just a little bit, Dr. Paul. We're going to row back so far that we're going to knock the trophies off the back of the boathouse. Did you just say that you were expelled from school?
Yes, I was just a naughty boy, really. I think nothing more than that, nothing outrageous. But I was checked out of school for fighting and different things, and c'est la vie. I don't think it held me back at all, but I think I just needed to be disciplined, really. And under my mother's tutelage, I was certainly brought back into reality.
That's quite a revelation. Well, that's thrown a curveball at me. Do you know what? I happen to know, as I'm sure you do as well, I know, well, let's have a think. I'll leave names out of it, but there's a friend of myself and Sarah's who's done very, very well, and she may or may not be managing the body coach, Joe Wicks, international fame. And she in fact, she came on to a live event that we did back in 2015 at the Colston Hall in Bristol. And she revealed that, she left school in Bristol with no qualifications, yet now she, runs the startup loans with the government. It's James Caan's business partner of the Dragon's Den, and also was Captain Tom's, the late Captain Tom's agent, as a literary agent as well. And also Sir Robert McCabe as well. He spoke at the showcase. He left school he left school in Bristol again with very few, if any, qualifications. Kind of went on and did some incredible things to become a knight of the realm. And so, I mean, there is for people who, I guess the point I'm making is that I've been quite surprised at people who've experienced, being expelled, or maybe they didn't quite hit the grades they wanted to at school or even at college. By no means is it a barrier to being an entrepreneur or being a principal of a college. That's quite a revelation. Okay, well, I'm throwing a curveball with that, but what a journey! What a journey. Okay, well, look, you took over the college back in 2001. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, January 2001.
Great. And as I remember, it was then listed as a college which was inadequate, if that's the right parlance. So what does first and foremost, what is the difference between for all of us people like me who's not totally clear, and I do lecture occasionally at UWE, what is the difference between further education and higher education? Is there a difference there?
Yeah, I think that really in further education, we're dealing with skills in the main up to sort of what we call level 3. That's your BTEC vocational courses, your A levels. Weston College is a college of further and higher education. So we actually go right the way up to degree and master's level. But certainly when I arrived, it was a pure FE college, just going up to level 3. And that in itself was quite a set of experiences, really, in those early days.
Mm-hmm. What about the initial challenges, the initial immediate, were there immediate and pressing well, there was, because it was technically failing as a college. What were the immediate and pressing challenges that you had to address, and how did your experience with the Ministry of Defence in Great Britain and your former experience as well in those other sectors, how did that help you in overcoming these initial challenges?
I think when I went into the college, I didn't do anything for the first 4 weeks, but walk around and meet people and meet businesses, speak to local people. And it started with, I moved into a house in Weston-super-Mare, and the lady next door, because I had 2 young boys at the time, said to me, well, whatever you do, don't send them to that college down the road, which was a real sort of incentivization. Right, let's see what the hell is going on. But I realized in those early days that what the college lacked was any form of what I would call calculated risk and strategic direction. And on that basis, therefore, I started with really just getting to know people and setting out some very clear objectives for the organization. But I also did a quick analysis, and what was clear was that whilst quite a few managers in the college were not of the caliber I needed, most of the staff were quite entrepreneurial and wanting to make impact. And that was the starting point of change. And, you know, it was very unpopular, some of the changes I made at the time, but I had to get a different strategy. I gave people time to adapt to what I wanted. The majority of managers didn't want to adapt and left through the front door, and we started again with a team who could make change.
Wow, the majority of managers. Okay, good heavens, that's a challenge in itself. Completely fresh start.
Yeah, most definitely the majority. There was one I kept who only just retired last year. A chap called Anthony Murray, who did a brilliant work. You know, you've just got to work with people who've got vision, people who are entrepreneurial, people who understand the nature of our business. And our business is getting people into employment or progressing them to university, meeting the skills needs of the area or the wider area, and taking some real critical risks at times.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on to the kind of current state of play where you're at now with the college, which you've alluded to with the COVID crisis, but, you know, we're going to talk about some of the incredible achievements which the college has made, and I'm well aware of those, and you know, partnered with the college on various things in the past. Always amazed. So before we do that, whenever we have somebody with letters after their name or a knighthood or something along those lines, it's always fun. And I think it's interesting for people who are tuning in, to use old parlance, to discover a little bit about the experience of were you awarded an MBE or an OBE initially, and then leading to the CBE?
I had an OBE first, and then I think it was 5 or 6 years later I had a CBE.
And what was the experience like? Was it Her Majesty who presented it to you on any occasion? I know sometimes it's the Prince of Wales, or
on the OBE was the Queen, and the CBE was Prince Charles and Camilla.
It's absolutely extraordinary. What was the experience of meet? If I may be so bold as to ask, what was it like to, you know?
I think I think the bit that shook me was when you're called up, and there's a real strict protocol, but when you're called up and you shake hands with Your Majesty, etc., the amount of knowledge she has of you and the questions that are asked, I was quite shocked. I mean, she she was able to say to me, of course, ma'am, you know, she said, my daughter opened one of your campuses so many years ago. I know you're doing a lot with learners with learning difficulties and disabilities. And she knew the whole picture. And it was similar with Prince Charles and Camilla, really. It was very, very focused in terms of their knowledge of the college and what we were achieving. The CBE year was a big year because in the, you know, they say it never rains, it pours, but in the space of sort of 3 months, the college won the Queen's Anniversary Prize with Prince Charles and Camilla. And then 3 months later, I met Prince Charles on his own for the CBE, and he remembered me from the Queen's Anniversary Prize. But so, you know, it was a good year in terms of celebrating what the college has achieved. And, you know, you're always as good, aren't you, as the people around you. And some of my staff in the college and my governors are so entrepreneurial and so successful. You know, there's times when it can be one big headache, but there's other times when it's an absolute privilege.
Thank you for sharing those insights. So we're going to just take a moment's break, and then we're going to sort of come on to the current status of college, what it's like to be a principal. You're also a businessman, as we know, we discovered in your background as well, and how those two things interface. So if you're just joining us now, please do stick around, because we've got a chance for you to ask a question to Dr. Paul Phillips CBE, aka Paul. So if you have got a question, please do pop it in the chat. Sarah Brooks, my colleague and co-producer, will be moderating and will be bringing those questions into the chat in a few minutes' time. And in particular, if you happen to be a student from Weston College, here's a chance to speak to your principal as well. And we're going to talk about how you took the college next from a £9 million inadequate college, to use the official parlance, into an outstanding college. And that's a big word. So let's find out more about that. You're watching The Biz Live. My name is Jamie Breeze, and welcome to our 13th episode, sponsored by Weston. Okay, so again, if you're just jumping in now and you're watching on LinkedIn, or if you're indeed watching live on our new YouTube chat platform, try saying that one after 6 shots of coffee, and our nicely branded mugs, I should add. And also, we are simulcasting, as they say in vlogging landscape, to Facebook Live as well. But our principal technology we use is this wonderful thing called LinkedIn Live. Now, at the moment, you can't subscribe, I'm sorry to say, but, you know, I may drop some messages to the team in New York and Dublin and India and see if we can lobby them a little bit to make that happen. But if you would like to take part in future episodes, why not just, you'll get an email from us if you registered, but why not just connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not already connected with me? Just jump in, connect with me. You can see my name is Jamie Breeze, and then I'll accept your connection request, and then I will send you an invite to our next few episodes. We've been really lucky. We've had some wonderful guests from our pilot episode with General Sir Peter Wall, to last week or 2 weeks ago now with Sir Ashley Fox, the former MEP consultant and businessman. So today our guest is Dr. Paul Phillips CBE. Here's an opportunity for you now to ask one of the most respected business leaders in the UK right here, right now. Please do drop a question into the chat, and in about 5-10 minutes time, we will be putting those questions, as many as we can, to Paul in the chat. And also, just to remind you that the background to the Biz Live, the backdrop, is actually a networking organization. We have 9 groups now at Evo Networking. Things changed for us a year ago in a couple of weeks' time, and we had to suddenly go from live events at Harvey Nichols and the aforementioned Winter Gardens. Aforementioned is today's special word. I want to get myself discombobulated. Previously mentioned, the Winter Gardens, one of my favorite locations in the world for many reasons, which I wish I could tell you more about. Maybe one day I'll do a whole show on my passion for Ishiguro. And we started there, and that was the last live group that we actually opened up face-to-face. Also, I'm just going to do a little screen share. We've never done this in 13 years. We have a new group opening up in Wales just on next week on the 16th. So we're not just about business. We have creatives as well coming to speak. If you can see that there. A good friend of mine and a collaborator from about 20 years ago, a chap called Rob Gittins, is helping us launch our new group in Wales. It covers the whole of Wales. It's our second networking group, and it is called Evo Wales Dre Group, or in English, Dragon. We already have about 18 founder members. The group is led by the former editor of Swansea Life and Swansea Business Life magazine, and he's a CEO in his own right, Lawrence Windmill. And our guest speaker is Rob. He is the longest serving creative and writer on the BBC network hit series, consistently the top performing, a bit like Weston College, and it's top performing in its results, but the best performing show on British television is EastEnders, and Rob is the longest serving writer, having written over 300 episodes. He's written over 100 episodes of The Archers. He's written over 2,000 episodes and storylined a well-known Welsh daily TV show, and so much more. 25 plays for Radio 4. Tracy Beaker, he wrote the first season or two of that. And furthermore, you can meet him for free by coming along on the 16th. Just go to the evo-networking.com website and look out for that first meeting of Evo Wales Drag. So come along and meet Rob Gittins. We don't always have, celebrity creatives. It's unusual for us to have a creative business person, but hey, he's a friend, and I'll be having a fireside chat with him there. And also, I mentioned 2 weeks ago that we have a new company, and it is called Evo Ultra. So if you are a CEO, or if you have staff, if you've got turnover which is growing, then I would like to invite you to consider applying to come along, so like a thinly veiled invite there, to the launch of Evo Ultra. Now, it's part of the Evo family, but it's a separate company for various reasons. We have different shareholders, and it's an exclusive express business club for CEOs and leaders of different organizations and businesses. We have 35 people attending. The group is led, this first group is led by General Sir Peter Wall, who was our very first guest on this show. He is the former head of the British Army. He is a director of a $45 billion company, one of the biggest companies in the world, called General Dynamics Corporation in the States. And he's also the CEO and co-founder of a wonderful consultancy called Amicus. Our second group leader is going to be the managing director of Barclays Business UK, and he'll be there, and he's a founder member as well. So we're very excited. So do drop your details into the chat. Sarah will keep a lookout. We have 1 or 2 spaces left. If you are a CEO or an MD, come along and find out more, because the launch event is on the 17th of March this year, online from 7:30 onwards. And we are looking for some founder members, as you may be surprised to discover. Okay, good stuff. So Sarah, can I just bring you in for a moment? Let us know how the chat is going. And then we're going to talk to Dr. Paul a little bit about the present and the plans for the future.
Yes, so there's some questions around how has COVID actually changed your leadership style, Dr. Paul? Has it, what impact has it had, and what have you had to do to deal with it?
Okay, I think a number of issues, really. I think the first thing it brought home to me was I thought I was a good communicator with my staff, but I realized under COVID, I really had to ratchet up communication in general. I created something called my virtual college. So I had a vehicle to communicate with all staff, all learners, governors, etc., and also opened it to the external agencies we supported. That was the first thing. And then the second thing I realized was that we were very well prepared for the mental health and well-being of our students. We'd invested lots, but I didn't have enough done, in my view, in terms of looking after my staff. So again, I had to change. I introduced something called Let's Chat, a joint initiative with ourselves and Gateshead College. And that had a massive impact on staff morale. And I also made a point of trying to communicate with staff individually in groups of 30 to 50 each week, and also recognizing unique performance each week and writing to those staff. So what it did was it highlighted communication was key. It highlighted mental health and well-being was key, and I suppose at the same time, it also for the whole organisation brought home the power of digital communication, which we'd invested in, but never exploited to its full potential. So they were the 3 main parameters, I would say, that came home to me. So we had business as normal, with the quotes around the normal. We maintained learning as much as we could, and I had to put particular attention into both those staff and those learners in a vulnerable position. And in some cases, that actually was as simple as, staff getting in the car and delivering laptops and opportunities to access internet to families right across the region. So on one occasion, I remember bidding for 300 second-hand laptops so we could convert them, do them up to college standards and get them out, because digital poverty was also a massive issue.
We've got some great questions coming on in there. So, Sarah, let me jump in with a question about leadership mindset, and then I can see a question perhaps from Sophie, who's an ex-apprentice. We're going to talk about apprenticeships as well, because obviously the budget revealed further funding, and that's a big part of your work. You work with, is it 19 prisons? I'm just going off the top of my head.
I work with 19 prisons in the southwest and the southeast.
There's numerous awards. If I remember as well, it wasn't in the biog, but if I remember, am I right in saying Weston got the Barclays Overall Business Education Award? Is there something on those lines?
No, it won the Lloyds Bank Business of the Year a year ago.
Oops, yes, that would be me referring to Ian, the said managing director of Barclays. I beg your pardon. So the Lloyds, remind us again, the Lloyds, what was that? Sorry?
Lloyds do a series of awards. We entered in the category of Business of the Year in terms of our work supporting business and industry.
Yes.
And also how we have a very inclusive approach in how we employ people for jobs, yes, etc. And we won that award.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It was a good night actually. We met Tim Peake, the astronaut, and we were introduced to lots of other organisations. And as networking went, it was a key event that night, to be honest.
Over to you, Sarah.
Yes, you mentioned there that Sophie Griffiths, who was in fact an ex-apprentice of the college, Dr. Paul, and she said, having completed in January, and she's just finished her first month of full-time education work out of education, what advice would you give your 22-year-old self in regards to working, knowing what you know now?
Right. I'm not sure I was so responsible, actually, as Sophie is at 22 years of age. However, going back, knowing what I know now, I would tell you that everything is there for grabs, and that don't be afraid to put your head above the parapet, work extremely hard, always go above and beyond, and keep your eyes open for other opportunities. Be innovative. If you can see things that the business you're working for could improve its efficiency from, then go and do it, because the world is your oyster. I'm dealing with apprentices now who qualified just 3 or 4 years ago, who are earning massive salaries already in the work of business and industry. And there is no doubt that the apprenticeship agenda and the fact that apprenticeships now go all the way up to degree level, it is a massive opportunity for everyone, but particularly, I think, young people, when you think that you're basically, as an apprentice, being paid while you gain qualifications, getting ready for the world of work. But as I say to the people I take on in my organisation, many who are, again, have done an apprenticeship, it's not on a plate. The opportunity is here, but you must seize it. If you seize it, you will go far.
Can you just remind us again about the Chancellor of the Exchequer's announcement just a few days ago, and how that may or may not impact the funding available to businesses? In other words, what is available to employers?
Well, I think in terms of employers now, they've got that £3,000 startup per apprentice. I think it's going to be a major catalyst in terms of seeing what they can do on the apprenticeship front. I think as well, we always think of an apprentice as a new employee, an existing employee who you want to upskill. can become an apprentice. It's a massive vehicle for upskilling your business, the staff development of your organization, retaining staff because they are gaining their qualification brief. And it really, I suppose, has been hit back a bit by COVID. But now with the positivity we're seeing out there, I would have thought we're talking of exponential growth and exponential opportunity.
Sarah, we have a question from Donald Melrose, or Don Melrose. Can you see that one there?
Yes. Dr. Paul, how do you think the lack of exams and lockdown will affect the students arriving in college next year? And I guess the year after, I mean, it's going to have huge ramifications for the next 10 years, I guess.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the lack of exams is a dangerous issue because you rely on estimated grades. Those estimated grades, it's very difficult to know how accurate they are. My experience in the college has been that in the last year, you know, there's a variable set of qualifications that young people arrive with. It doesn't affect the students because we do a very quick assessment when they arrive with us, and we make sure they achieve. I think that's the lack of exams. That's more easily sorted out in some respects. I think the lockdown issue is the more serious issue. They've lost out in that connectivity with their fellow learners. They've lost out in a sense of discipline, a sense of order. And that's the bit we have to concentrate most on, is getting them right back into that almost regimented approach so that they can achieve their ambitions. And I think as well, I think higher education, from what we see on the news, etc., has been quite badly hit by lockdown. So there's also, you know, some students may have been disincentivized to do a higher apprenticeship or a degree apprenticeship. And actually, we must do our utmost to make sure that doesn't happen, because it is that ticket to a very, very bright future. But yes, it is affecting, but we are dealing with it. I mean, COVID has done one of two things I've noticed in businesses and education. It's either used as an excuse or it's used as a challenge that we get past. At one point, I got quite frustrated in my own sector where I saw people, you know, using COVID as an excuse not to do something. There's no reason you can't do something. You've just got to do things in different ways.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. We've got a follow-up question from Donald Melrose here as well, as a business expert and very well regarded in Wales, across the whole of Wales, I should add. He's asking, what advice would you give to those students and parents of those students? I think he has kids of student age.
Okay. I think at the end of the day, I would say, what is the ambition? Forget what's happened with the lockdown. Forget what's happened with the GCSEs or whatever. What is the ambition? And from the ambition, you work backwards to the solution. So if somebody comes in to me and says, look, I want to be a physiotherapist, I can plan out a number of different routes for them. It could be through a BTEC route, an A-level route, an access route. It could even be through an apprenticeship route these days. You have to maintain the ambition and the vision and rely on your college or your education provider to map that opportunity to you. I think the advantage of Weston College is we're not a one-trick pony. We offer the lot. We offer the apprenticeship route. We offer the A-level route. We offer the access route. We offer the vocational routes. You know, there's more than one way to reach the destination. So therefore, be ambitious, maintain your ambition, but look at the ways of realizing your ambition.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I don't know if you've got a hard out, but we've got 5 minutes left our end, and I've certainly got a question, and it's been picked up on also, I think you can see that as well, Sarah, by your colleague, Paul, Josh Harrington, who I've had the pleasure to know and work alongside for a good few years now. and what a great colleague he is. Little plug for you there, Josh, in front of you, boss. So Josh says, this is a big thing, leadership mindset. So we've got 5 minutes. I'd really like to drill down and offer advice. So what advice would you give to aspiring leaders? And let's just amplify that. Leaders who are currently leading businesses as well, because there's all sorts of challenges they're facing day in, day out at the moment.
Okay, I think my advice would be as follows, based on working in industry and education. Are you clear on your goals? How simplistic is your strategic plan? If you try and scattergun loads of things you won't achieve, be really careful on a couple of key objectives and get them right. You are as good as the people around you. Make sure if those staff have flair and are working above and beyond, you recognize them, you celebrate their success. Recognize what you're there for and the businesses you serve, and cultivate a relationship with those businesses. Biggest thing I learned in education, if I'm frank, was don't offer anything off the shelf. Listen, create bespoke solutions, and deliver the goods. And finally, if you want to be that leader, then get used to putting your head above the parapet, get used to being shot down, and get used to putting it back up there till you get what you want. And never tolerate bureaucracy in any form, and never take any prisoners.
I love that, given the fact you help 19 prisons as well. That's somewhat ironic, but I know what you mean. Look, we've got one last question, I guess, and it's going to come from the house today. And I just wanted to, before we depart in a couple of minutes, just say thank you to all of those taking part, including Donald Melrose, who's asked a couple of questions today. He says, thank you, Dr. Paul. I wish Weston College was closer to Llanelli, as Isla is looking for an apprenticeship in engineering. So,
I would sell, Jamie, we're still there. I'm sure we can still help or give advice. And, you know, I've got students coming from as far as Cardiff doing engineering with me. I know Llanelli's a bit further, but speaking as a true Welshman, I must look after the Welsh.
Yes. Good stuff. Okay, so we talked about leadership mindset. We talked about your past. We talked about 20 years running this educational institution, and also crucially as a business. But there's much more. There's much more to this. What are the things that you're most proud of about Weston College and the achievements of late? And what's your plans for, as far as you can see post-COVID, for the future?
I'm most proud, I think, Jamie, of all the learners we've been able to succeed who previously had a pretty rough experience of education and have realised and exceeded their ambitions. I can always get students in, I suppose, to Oxford and Cambridge, as indeed any other institution could, because they've got that innate ability. But let me be clear, it's getting students who have had a bad experience through that is key in terms of the future. So for me, what was the other question? Sorry, Jamie. There was another...
It was a dual mixed up question, typical of me. So what are the things you're most proud of regarding the college's progression of late, and then plans for the future? New campuses, so, anything in the offing?
Plans for the future, I think, we are going to massively invest in our construction and engineering, going even further. We already have some of the biggest contracts with Rolls-Royce, GKN, MOD. I want to take a real lead now in dealing with the unemployed agenda that's occurred because of COVID. And we will be working on trailblazer schemes to really bring people in. I see an exponential growth in apprenticeships. And most of all, I see the college acting almost as a business centre, complementing the Institute of Technology it's now got up and running to deliver services for industry locally, regionally, nationally, and currently in talks to go international with our work in engineering.
It really is a college of outstanding achievement, Dr. Paul, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And obviously, on behalf of everyone, if you are watching live, you can't do this post, I have to add, but you can continue to comment. We expect over 1,000 views by this time next week. So if you can, and you're still watching, please give us a little hand with the heart or the thumbs up to thank Dr. Paul for taking time out today during this really, really busy, well, he's always busy, but an insanely busy week, given the fact that many of the colleges and the students were returning to some sense of normality just only yesterday. So a big, big thank you. And for all of you who are taking part, all of you asking questions, to my colleague Sarah, and again to our sponsor, Weston College, we are incredibly grateful to you for sponsoring season 4, and it's lovely to have their principal and CEO on the show today. So once again, our guest today is and was Dr. Paul Phillips CBE. Paul, we wish you the very, very best of British luck for now and into the future. Let it be another 20 years. And also, Sarah, a closing comment from you, if I may.
Yes, well, gosh, we covered so many things there, didn't we, Jamie? We trotted through, you know, leadership mindsets and the whole of the education system. So it's very hard to pick out one thing. But a couple of things stood out for me. Dr. Paul was talking about the ambition and focus that is necessary at the moment, in particular, always, but particularly now. You know, you have to be adaptable, and also that there are many pathways to achieving whatever it is that you want to do. There's not just one thing. And that sounds, you know, Weston College, I must say, I've been inspired by the idea of a college that can take people at wherever they're at in their heads or whatever they've achieved thus far. It sounds like you could go in there and someone would sit down with you and kind of work out a plan that is bespoke to you and your needs, which is brilliant. It sounds like, you know, the kind of nurturing system that surely we can all sign up to. So that sounded great. And I really loved his insight into leadership as well. Be prepared to stick your head above the parapet. And when you get shot down, just get back up again and make sure that you keep focused on what you're trying to achieve.
We also wanted to say thank you to a couple of students, current and past and present, it seems, as well. So thank you for taking time out today to come onto this business show. And we will be welcoming another guest to be announced. Could be somebody from abroad, I think, maybe next week or the week after. We may have a sabbatical next week as we launch Evo Wales and our new business, Evo Ultra. But it is a chance for us to say goodbye to Sarah Brooks. Thank you very much. Say goodbye, Sarah Brooks, please. I will see you soon. Thank you for everything today in building the show. And also, last but by no means least, Dr. Paul, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the week. And yeah, we look forward to hopefully welcoming you back maybe in another, well, not 20 years, maybe in another few years' time. You're watching the Biz Live. We'll see you soon. Have a lovely rest of the week, everyone. And thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now. Cheers.